In this episode, I delve into the idea of judgment and perspective. Take the recent chatter around Ryan Coogler's film Sinners and its absence from award lists. Many cry snub, but have they asked what Ryan Coogler thinks? In truth, he said awards don't define him, that he's more concerned about the blue collar workers behind the films. He did acknowledge that it gives you some exposure at these award shows, but they're just not for him. When invited to join the Academy in 2016, he declined, not out of animosity, but because he finds it stressful to judge films. Judging films to decide on what's good, what's bad, it gives him too much anxiety. Now, this sets the stage for my conversation with Rafi Silver. We often think we can stay neutral, but in reality, we all must choose. From genres to values, our differences shape us. As Rafi and I discuss his Buddhist outlook and my Christian one, we uncover that even in art, discernment is inescapable. Join us as we examine how we navigate a world that thrives on distinction, whether in taste, belief, or art itself. Take a listen. Welcome to In the Waiting Room podcast, where we dive into the real lives of working actors. Whether you trained at top schools or came up through self-made hustle, this space is for honest conversations about the grind, side jobs, the craft, and the faith it takes to keep going. I'm Rashad Edwards, your host, and this podcast is about the journey between the big breaks. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at In the Waiting Room Pod, and if you're a working actor, fill out the survey in our bio so we can learn from your journey too. Let's get into it. Rafi Silver, birth name?
That's it. That's my birth name.
That's your birth name.
Rafi Silver.
Pretty dope, man. It's like badass.
You know, I hated that name when
Really?
I was a kid. Yeah, because there's a child singer, Rafi, and I used to get teased, but it was, it's not dissimilar to when somebody says to me, like, hey, you're an actor, what is it that you have been in? I started practicing that joke when I was 4 or 5. People would be like, Rafi, like the child singer, and I would say, yeah, I'm him. Even though he's a grown man.
Yeah.
I would tell my 5, 6-year-old friends that I was him. And because they're 5 and 6, they would be like, really?
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah.
Heard of that singer, by the way.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, he's classic for kids. Classic for kids.
Wait, you've only done one play since graduating?
Yeah.
Where was that play?
It was in D.C., the Studio Theater. We did a play called The Effect by Lucy Preble. My wife's from Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Never heard of it.
It's Montgomery County. There was a time I was living in LA for 7 years, and then right after grad school, and then I moved to the East Coast, but in between, we did a pit stop in Maryland for 2 years. And we were seeing some plays. I was like, whoa, the theater's really good in DC. I was itching to do a play, but so I think I met somebody that, actually, it was a connection to NYU. There was a director, Shauna Cooper. Did we start? Oh, we started? That's so funny. Our last play at NYU was Camino Real. Do you know Calvin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Calvin was a classmate.
Oh, he was in your class?
Yeah, Calvin Dunn.
You know where he is now, right?
Yes, I do. Seattle, out there, which is cool because I go out there a few times a year because my wife's best friend lives in Seattle, so hope to see him soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were doing Camino Real as our last play, and Mark Wing Davey hired Shauna Cooper, the director, to come in and work with us. I kept in touch with Shauna because she lived out in LA, and I had moved to LA immediately after grad school, and we got along really well. She then got a job working at the Woolly Mammoth Theater in DC, and she was the only person I knew in the entertainment industry in DC. It was really just a suburban town in Maryland. And I reached out to her to hang out. She had a kid about the same age as my kid, and we had a play date. And I was like, let me see some of your plays. So saw some of the theater at the Woolly Mammoth and Shakespeare Theater and Arena State. I was like, whoa, this is a legit theater town.
Yeah.
They have tons of stuff going on, and everyone's really good. It's almost like they pick and choose all the good plays, and then they do it all in DC with really talented people.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to do one of those. So she was like, here's this guy who works at the studio theater. I just was like, I'm a local right now. And they brought me in to audition. I don't remember the play. I can't remember the play. But then that didn't go forward, and they were like, hey, there's this other one that David Muse, who's the artistic director, is doing called The Effect. That play, I don't know if you know. Do you know the play?
No,
The
I don't.
Effect?
Never heard of it.
It's about a clinical drug trial where these two like wandering souls, I guess you can call it, sign up to, test this new antidepressant drug. And they meet each other there and they fall in love. And you're not sure. The question of the play is like, is it the drug that's making them fall in love? Is it something else? How does drugs affect the mind? And, through twists and turns, you find out one of them's not on the drug, one's on a placebo, all sorts of stuff like that. And Lucy Preble, the playwright, who ended up working on, I think, the first season of Succession, and she's an amazing playwright. I fell in love with the play. Anything that has to do with mental illness or psychiatric drugs or the mind really draws my attention. And this was such a good role. It was funny, it was dramatic. I got to work with David Muse, the artistic director. I got to sink my teeth into this, and it was the only play I've done.
Did you book anything else from that? Like, did any work come out of that?
Out of that, no. I guess when you're in the DC theater scene, there's not a lot of people, and they stay in it. They do kind of like a pilot season. I don't know if they still do, but they would do a mini version of a pilot season, but with theater, where all the theaters pick their seasons, and then they kind of all audition their whole season at the same time, because there's only a few actors. And so if you're an actor in DC, you can kind of have your whole following year mapped out. Like, all right, I'm gonna do a play at studio. When that goes into production, I'm gonna start rehearsal for the play at Arena, and then I'm gonna go on and so on and so forth. And so being in DC and being a local was like, is this what I'm gonna do? But my wife was like, no way. She was like, you get one play.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because we had kids and don't pay. And they take up a ton of time.
Right.
It wasn't just the money, it's the time. As a theater performer, you're working nights, late nights. That happened to not be a long play, and it was still a late night. You're working weekends, and when you've got kids, you only see them on Monday. And they're like, who's your father? So it wasn't necessarily the money, it's really the time.
Yeah, and you value your family.
I value my time. I value my time with my family. And also, before I'd started NYU, I went to Syracuse University in the BFA acting program. And all I wanted to do was TV and film. And I wasn't in a position where I was getting those auditions, but I was auditioning a lot for theater. And I was going from play to play, and it was like, man, I really want to do TV and film because it pays more. But the one thing about theater that I kept running into was this false expectation that this play is going to then get me another play, or it's going to make me famous in some sort of way. And really what I noticed was, if you're not in the audience seeing that event, then nobody knows what you did. And you can walk around town and say, hey, I'm in this play, and people are like, what's that? I mean, it's almost the way the TV industry is now, where you're like, I'm in the show, and people are like, I've never heard of it. Like, that's great. You know what I'm saying?
There's so many shows out.
There's so many movies, shows, play. It's like, you can say you're an actor, and everybody says, like, what do I know you from? Then you also, you kind of have to describe it as like, remember that character in that thing?
Yeah.
That was me. And they're like, oh yeah, that was you. So, you could walk around and be like, hey, have you ever heard of Titanic?
You were in that.
Yeah, why not? No, I wasn't in that. No, but that's kind of the joke in a way. They're like, what do I know you from? Forrest Gump.
And they might
be like, oh, yeah, 1994 when I was 10 years old. I was like, yeah, who knows? They don't know.
I was the kid that jumped off the ship.
Yeah, it was Forrest Gump. They cut my scene. But nobody knows.
Yeah, I played young Forrest.
Yeah, Right. They'd be like, sure,
Wow, you changed.
you've changed.
Yeah, man. The business will do that to you.
Yeah, people don't know, but they always ask that question,
Yeah.
right? They're always like, oh, you're an actor. What do I know you from?
All the time in the restaurant. When I worked in the restaurant, oh, you're an actor. What I know you from? And I used to just troll them. You know,
Yeah,
young
troll
kids
them.
They say troll now. I used to go, yeah, you probably see me in Raw in Order. And like, the porn, yeah. They're like, it just stopped them up right away. Leave me alone.
That's funny. Yeah, no, but I don't know another profession where you say this is what you do, and then somebody then follows up with the most uncomfortable follow-up question.
Yeah.
Tell me your resume.
Exactly. They never ask a doctor.
Like, oh, I
that.
sell houses. Which house did you sell?
Yeah.
You know that one on the corner of Wyckoff and Monroe?
Right.
Yeah, I sold that one. They'd be like, whoa.
Wow. I know the guy who sold that place.
Yeah, it's like, it like legitimizes you as a performer.
Yeah.
Where you have to then tell people your resume. And when I was living in LA, it felt like everywhere you went, that's people decide whether they know you first. And then if that doesn't check all the boxes, then they ask you, then they're waiting for the response to know if they know. And then there's this kind of like illusion, smoke and mirrors, where you can kind of say whatever you want, and there's almost like a sense of FOMO from their reaction. So it's almost better to say something they don't know or that's coming.
You're right.
It's like, oh,
God.
I met the guy who told me, it's like, yeah, I got cut. I had 7 episodes. They all got cut.
They all got cut. It's not up to me, but I got paid for it.
Yeah, I got paid. But it is true. Like, so much does get cut. So you get replaced. Like, so much of that happens, but yet somebody who's not in this profession would then legitimize you with that follow-up question. It's interesting how, like, as time's gone on, how I don't let those follow-up questions trigger me. But it used to trigger me a lot, like my own self-worth, being able to answer that question with confidence or not apologizing for the lack of success that I've had, even though it's in the eye of the beholder. Right? Like, when you're first starting this career, expectations are pretty low. You're like, oh my God, I was on that Domino's commercial. They're like, who were you? You're like, the guy sitting there eating the pizza. And you're proud of that. But then you go through all this training, go through this career. You're like, oh yeah, I was on NCIS. And they're like, what'd you play? And you're like, I played this role in these 3-4 episodes. And they're like, oh. And you kind of have to be like, no, it was a
big thing.
It was a nice character, you know, it was a good arc. They're like, never heard of it. And you're like, like, well, they've heard of that
Unless
show.
they watch the show, like,
yeah, which a lot of people do for that. But even then, like, they'll talk to you about their other favorite character. And they'll also ask you, like, why did the writers kill you? And you kind of get to have fun with them, be like, I know, you know, this or that. But that's why I liked doing that play in DC, because the people who go to see theater there are politicians, the psychologists, people who work out of the industry, who ride the metro. So I would get on the metro after the show. I would take it back to Shady Grove Road, which is the last stop. And there'd be people who just saw me in the play, and I would sit there and talk to them about the play from a perspective of just a person who was interested in the subject matter, not about what I do as a professional actor in my resume. They wanted to talk about mental illness, about antidepressant drugs, about what my character was going through. The stuff that Lucy Preble the themes that she put into the play. And it felt so fulfilling to me to have those conversations with people. It reminded me, it's like, I got into this to be a storyteller and have this conversation. There was an exchange, a real give and take. And it filled me with a sense of purpose to do that play every night. It was like, I get to do this and share this with everyone. And, you know, that's kind of like led me to what I do now and what I teach and what I pursue is really recognizing and trying to hold like that artistry, that passion, that sense of purpose of why we want to do this gently, but also protect it and constantly have a practice to remind yourself that the smoke and mirrors are it's another game. It's everyone's putting on a costume, just like we do as actors, but it feels very real, but it's not real. It's choices. But underneath all that, everyone just wants to be seen. Everyone just wants to feel safe and feel supported and feel connected to each other. But then through insecurity and through being hurt or whatever, we protect that through a display, what we wear, what we talk about. And it's much easier to isolate people than it is to bring people together. So that was an interesting experience doing that play. So yeah, long story short, I don't do a lot of theater.
But you feel a sense of purpose being able to tell a story and have talkbacks with people who've interacted with the play
Or project or anything. I feel like I get my theater fix working at Columbia, basically.
What do you do there?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but what I do there currently is I teach a class that I created called The Mindful Actor. I've been at Columbia, I think 11 years now in the MFA acting program, and it started where James Clary, when he took over, wanted to add to the program a class or an opportunity that was similar to what we had at NYU, like free play. And it's built into the fabric of the program at NYU to like straight from Universe Project on and Games Project and everything. To really just, who are you as an artist? What do you want to say? How do you want to put it out there? What kind of storytelling do you want to do? They really encourage that. And even when you get cast in the plays or whatever, they still want you to bring that to it. There's that sense that like you are a unique, wonderful artist and like you can do anything. I don't know if when you were there, Dave Costable was still teaching, but...
No, he popped in every once in a while to do a workshop.
Yeah. His thing was assume your brilliance,
yeah.
right? Which is such like, it's like NYU grad, assume your brilliance, right? That's like the thing there, at least when I was there. And I think that's what really makes the actors that come out of NYU grad dangerous and special, is that they really just fucking assume their brilliance. Like when they're really living in it, there's like, fuck it, whatever.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. But a lot of people don't do that, and it's not built into training as much. So a way to encourage that through training is to give artists the opportunity to create their own work and express themselves. Give them the facility, give them the resources. So James wanted to bring that to Columbia in some sort of way, but we didn't have the resources there to just say, here's our theater, go ahead and produce. So he's like, let's create a class around it. And so I developed a class called Proof of Concept, which was essentially free play with a mentor. So I was their professor, but I was really their mentor and gave them a class to explore anything performance-based that they wanted to do and encourage them to create a proof of concept of that idea. So it could be as simple as 30 seconds or up to 10 minutes of a one-person show, a dance show. I had a student in the first couple years do these funny Instagram reels. This was 8 years ago. And we just popped those up. Then we would do like a variety show, the proof of concept kind of variety show at the end of the year. And it was a success. However, because it's not built into the program, into the fabric of the program, by the time the students had come to my class, they hadn't had a lot of practice in doing this like we did right from the get-go. So a lot of the stuff that I would do would have these one-on-one mentorship kind of discussions, where it was less about getting the material on its feet and it was more about the inception. Like, what is it you're interested in? It's like a creative therapy session where they would ask me questions about my career. How did I get started? And I would talk to them, and then I would ask them questions like, what is it you're interested in doing in this world? Let's see if this is what's coming up in my mind. Maybe there's a play, maybe there's a clown show. Let's try this. Then they'd come back in, and I'd be like, how's that going? More often than not, they'd be like, I haven't done anything, but I still want to sign up for my one-on-one. It was frustrating at first because it was almost like hitting my head against the wall, because the students were really accountable to do their own work, but creating work that you don't know how to start is scary. And if you're not used to putting yourself out there in that uncomfortable place, you don't know how. And as time went on, I was just there to support them and encourage them. But it was really these one-on-one meetings that kept going. But I was not satisfied with that. I kept telling James, I'm like, I'm not a guidance counselor. I'm hired to be a professor and like teach a class, but all I'm doing is having these guidance sessions. He was like, they value you. Just keep doing that. Like, what you're doing is still helping them in this school and this career and everything. And I have developed relationships with my students over the last 11 years. As they've become alumni, we still continue that relationship. But I kept trying to find new ways to make more accountability, like force the accountability. And I was like, the more accountability I put in there, the more they're doing, but they're still resisting. They're still paying attention to agents and managers and all that sort of thing. And I'm like, nah, don't worry about that. Find your voice. So I was like, I finally got to the point where I had scheduled every single week with a project or something to do. And that was like the worst possible. I had a student come up to me at the end of our first class and be like, literally pull my syllabus up and hold it to me. And was like, oh yeah, so that thing, I'm not gonna do that. And be like, oh, and that thing, yeah, I don't wanna do that. That thing sounds interesting, I'm gonna try that. Yeah, and that one I'm not gonna. And I was like, what's your name?
Seriously.
It was the first class, I was like, what's your name?
Of students.
This was pre-COVID too. So it was like, for me, I, at first had that feeling of like, oh my goodness, but I welcome feedback like that. Even though it's uncomfortable at first, I like that because whenever somebody does that, they're reflecting back to you, your own stuff. So I was like, oh, I was trying to control them. I'm not meeting them where they're at. And that was the fuel that was fueling my fire. It's like, how can I meet these students where they're at? And I just kept trying to be curious about that and watch and observe and pay attention. And eventually, through my life circumstances outside of school, I started a devout Buddhist practice. And I became a Buddhist and was meditating every day. I was going on silent retreats, and I was learning more and more about Buddhism for myself, personally. And it started leaking into the way I was teaching, which it makes sense because it's all about self-awareness, awareness of what is, what are you avoiding? There's a context for it. And I would talk about these things, not using Buddhist vernacular, but I would just say, like you're gripping onto this, you're clinging onto this storyline, like you're trying to hold something from not changing, and yet everything changes. Impermanence, or cause of suffering is clinging, and attachment and aversion, all these things. And towards the end of the year, people would be like, what's this stuff you're talking about? They would know I would be meditating, they know I would go on retreats, and I would recommend them different Buddhist books and different teachers or podcasts. And the reflection back to me was like, that's really valuable stuff, the students would say. So I took a semester off and I was like, I think there's something here. I was like, I don't want to teach Buddhism because it's not a religious school, even though Buddhism's non-theistic and it's secular, it's all that. I said, there is something here. I spent a whole semester trying to figure out what that was and asking questions. Scott Illingworth, who is the associate chair at NYU grad, has been a mentor of mine since I graduated. And we would have these discussions about what is this thing? What is my value? And how can I make a class out of that? How can I meet them where they're at? And at Columbia, there's a class called The Actor's Body, and then there's a class called The Actor's Voice. And I was like, well, why don't I create a course called The Actor's Mind? And then they were like, yeah, we don't like the name. But once I started developing the structure for it, somebody, I think it was my friend Danny, was like, why don't you call it The Mindful Actor? I was like, okay. So I said, you know what, instead of burying the lead, I'm just gonna put it right on the syllabus. This class is this, the mindful actor. We are going to utilize mindfulness meditation, the concepts from Buddhism, and integrate it into performance, into life, into what's going on with you as a performer, as an artist, as a human being, as a citizen, as an ensemble member. Because in third year, they're going through all that. They're doing their thesis, they're doing their showcase. Everything is a whirlwind up in the mind. And to be able to have a practice that directly puts your experience into perspective was interesting to me. And so I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, as well as teaching the showcase class.
So you have 2 now.
I co-teach the showcase class in conjunction with the mindful actor, as almost like a directed experiment.
It's an integration.
Yes, it's like, let's take the most stressful, attached thing you have, and let's try and bring in this practice. So it really isn't different than what I was hired to do 11 years ago, which is really have some sort of practice of self-examination of what is your purpose, what's driving you, what are you offering. But now I give you a tool, I give you a context that I didn't create. The Buddha did 2,600 years ago. And I'm just recycling it through my experience, through my transmission, if it's possible. And I'm constantly saying, your guess is as good as mine. And I consider all my students my teachers, and vice versa. It's just constant moving and growing and changing with the times and changing with the industry.
Were you raised with this Buddhist practice?
No.
What were you raised?
I was raised Jewish. I went to a Jewish day school, which I resisted. I resisted Judaism from my family because now I have context for it, because of dogma. So in Buddhism, there's the Dharma and then dogma. Dogma, for me, is it's shoulds and shouldn'ts. Dharma is suggestions. Here's a path. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just curiosity and exploration. Dogma is saying you have to or you shouldn't. And I always resisted that in Judaism. Just like as an innocent child, I was like, why can't, we were kosher growing up. And kosher means you can't eat milk and meat and you can't eat shellfish. I had a friend in school, Jewish day school, he's like crushing McDonald's cheeseburgers. I was like, fuck, that looks good. It smells good. My uncle would eat bacon. I'd be like, I want some. Bacon looks good, smells good. And my dad, you can't do that. And I was always the questioning, why? Not in a why.
Yeah, but
it was just
curiosity.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
And then he would give me some answer, but usually the answer would end up being because that's how it's done.
Okay.
And as a child, I rejected that.
What if he would have answered you differently with context from?
Well, he would give me context from the Torah.
Okay.
But the Torah to me, to a certain degree, was a fear-driven dogmatic perspective, which was saying you have to do it this way. There's no middle ground, which is interesting because as I've grown up and I've learned more about religion, that's not the truth. That was my perspective as a child.
Yes.
Was very much it has to be this way, otherwise you're a bad person. And I grew up in a household which was, remember the Holocaust, never forget. So there was always that cloud over you. They're coming for you. They tried to kill us then, they tried to kill us now. They're always coming to kill us. They're gonna get you. Take care of yourself. This is why we marry Jewish. This is why we eat kosher. This is why we stick with our own, because they always want to kill you.
So you were traumatized into belief.
It wasn't, which is interesting because my wife grew up Jewish, had a very different relationship with it. Her memory is of the get-togethers and the eating and the singing and for me, it was not that way.
Is she still Jewish? Well, she always will be, but.
We're allowing our children to kind of choose.
Really?
And it's from the sense of the trauma that you are describing. Is I grew up in a shouldn't household, and I attempt to just model my devotional practice for my kids, where I have a shrine, I have my meditation bench, I do my offerings and stuff to the Buddha and to all beings, and my kids see it. They're curious, they ask questions, I educate them, and I wear this mala and they play with it. And every now and then I'll be meditating and my kid will come in, he'll sit on my lap. He'll sit there for 30 seconds in silence. I'll welcome that. You have to do it this way, no, I want them to have enough space to be curious. But where my wife and I are on the same page is that being spiritual and being devotional to something larger than self has an incredible benefit. And we value that because the devotional practice that I have has been transformative for me and for her as well. So I understand now through the context of my devotion how special it is to have devotion in Christianity, Islam, whatever religion. I see it now from that perspective of, the call to prayer, getting down on your knees, how that is a gesture of prostration, a gesture of humility, which we learn through physical gestures, not just what we think, but also what we say, code of conduct, how we act in this world. And all kind of religions start at that same place, which is really the golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated. Love thy neighbor, right? It's all that. In Buddhism, it's the Bodhisattva vow, which is for the benefit of all beings. May what I get from this conversation, my career, may it benefit all beings. If you take any doctrine or any piece of text, right? Like let's bring this back to acting. If you take any piece of text as literal, like there are societies out there that say you have to act Shakespeare this way, otherwise it's not right. You have to breathe at the end of iambic pentameter. Like Shakespeare and Company teaches it that way. Otherwise, you're not acting verse. You can't add you can't make it modern. And so if you take things literally, this is why I like the Buddhist concept, where they're almost non-committal to everything, in the sense that your experience and my experience of any given moment, our interpretation of what it is that we're reading, it's all right and it's all wrong. It's coming from your conditioning, in Buddhism, your karma, what's been given to you, what's been passed down, the cause and effect of everything. And it is, so a good way of saying it is, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And from that perspective, yes, I hear you, what you're saying, which is it says it this way in black and white, but I don't believe that anything is black and white. This is why when I teach Buddhism or in Buddhist concepts in acting, it works because you can justify, let's put it this way, a villain doesn't know they're a villain, right? If you get cast as a villain.
No, I disagree.
So if you get cast as a bad person, you know you're being bad?
Oh yeah, especially if I've been taught the difference between right and wrong.
So if you think something is right and you act upon it, even though it's violent, do you think that you're benefiting people or hurting people?
And you're gonna have to rephrase that.
So here's my perspective, that I use Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards' performance as an example. That character, and he's actually been on Interview to talk about this, doesn't know he's a villain. He actually thinks that he's doing
the right thing.
Right
no, I
thing.
understand that part.
Yes.
I understand that concept, totally. But I think once you see the results, you understand that what you're doing is not good. Once you see the results of what you're doing, of your actions, you know that you've done something that's not in favor of those who disagree with it.
Do you truly believe that the people who are indoctrinated in violence, when they commit violence, actually know?
Yes.
Believe that?
Oh yeah. Especially with, if I just go with my world and how I grew up and where I grew up, 100%. Because, growing up African American in the South, Texas, concept of right and wrong is drilled into you at birth. There are moral standards, and those things come from the Holy Bible. It comes from the teachings of Jesus Christ. So you know exactly from a very young age what to do, what not to do. By the time you're 5 years old, you understand that very clearly. Psychologists agree. So once you become an adult or a teenager, or whatever age you are in the choices that you make, you know that every single choice that you're making, there's some consequence to it. If there isn't a consequence, then you have an incentive to keep doing it. But eventually, you're gonna face a consequence of it. and you know, wait, I'm going to continue to do this, I'm getting away with it, right? It must be okay. You'll find ways to justify it. And in Christian theology, you have a character called Satan. And Satan is very good at seduction. Satan will find people and things to seduce you into thinking that the things that you're doing is actually okay when you know that they're wrong. And that's the biggest thing, that people have kind of psyched themselves out in the modern world, thinking that people are more victims that actually are the criminals in most of these cases, when they're not. They know exactly what they're doing.
I think we align in this, and I'll give you the perspective from my perspective. I think what you're trying to say, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that there is a right and wrong in life.
Yes.
The general umbrella of it all.
Yes, absolutely.
In the perspective that I see, we say nirvana and samsara, right? Heaven, hell. Satan, heaven, Satan. God, Satan. Nirvana and samsara are perspectives in the mind, but they're exactly the same thing, meaning they're both right here, right in front of you at all times. And it's just because of our confusion that we don't know which one's which. So I agree with you that the human nature, the pure nature, that we're all born pure in loving awareness.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying
Oh, okay.
loving awareness is what I consider to be God, which is loving awareness, which is pure nature. That's what we refer to in Buddhism as Buddha. It's not a person. Buddha represents pure nature, which means that everything begins pure. Nothing begins tarnished. Nothing arises in a sense of complication. It arises in pure nature. And the way that we see things creates our world. And if we see things with confusion, then we end up in hell, in samsara. And so, as from my perspective, I wish all people free from confusion. And so when we practice loving kindness for all beings without a single exception, I mean it. Even the ones that are the most violent in this world, I wish them loving kindness.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you could wish them the loving
From a
kindness.
perspective, if they're free from their confusion, then they wouldn't behave in that
Right,
way.
we call it sin. That's the thing. I don't think many of them are confused. When you see the type of evil being displayed in many different areas of this world, they can confirm it to you directly of who they are and why they did what they did. There's no confusion whatsoever as to many of them intention. I understand involuntary things that occur. I didn't mean to. I had too much to drink and I drove into this car and the person as a result died from it. You know, it's different. I intentionally do not like XYZ person, so therefore I'm going to put a hit out on them and try to assassinate them.
That person who does that, do you think that they're born that way?
No, I don't think that they're necessarily born that
Like
way.
right from conception,
No.
like right when they're...
No. I don't think they were born with a
So
mission
what
to
happened?
kill. What happens in many factors, but I don't think it could be explained in just one thing. But I think there's many factors. But this I will say is that human beings have to learn to be good. I don't think that you're born with knowing how
Correct.
to be good and do good, practice kindness, practice thoughtfulness, practice love. Those things have to be practiced. They have to be learned, because it's not easy to use this type of practice on a day-to-day basis. It's a struggle. And that's why we have things in place like religion and like meditation and like all of these different tools and practices. But it doesn't, just because you forgive someone or love someone, doesn't mean that you have to accept whatever sort of hate
I agree.
and anger that they're bringing your way.
I don't accept it.
Right. And I don't
I
have
don't
to
accept
engage
it.
with it.
No, I don't engage with
Right.
it either.
Yeah.
I'm not supporting them.
You're right.
And I certainly don't accept it, and I certainly don't engage with it. And what I think you just said is exactly right. It needs to be practiced, and it needs to be trained. But people don't realize that they can.
What people?
All people.
What do you mean they don't realize that they can?
They don't realize that they can have a relationship with their mind that can change their point of view and shift their perspective. Because they're in a house of mirrors. It's so distorted that they can't see or find their way out. Doesn't mean there isn't a way out. It just means they can't. And this is why I really love going down the path of learning about mental illness. I mean, I grew up in a household where my father was bipolar 1. He was in and out of psychiatric facilities. He attempted suicide multiple times. I witnessed it. The joke in my family is that my grandmother was the first person was on the clinical drug trial of lithium. So like, I understand that chemistry in the mind can create psychosis, it can create mental illness. But from my perspective, those are the shitty cards that you're dealt. And with those shitty cards that you're dealt, there's still a capability of figuring out a practice and a support system that can allow these people to flourish, be wonderful people in society, be supported by others. But we're so focused on the self and not the other through self-interest, through ego, because we don't have that for that second set of that for what? Why are we doing this?
Well,
why do we act?
Well, I think that, to each his own, yes, but for me being a Christian and being raised Christian, and I've deviated, throughout my life and dabbled in some things. But I think a lot of things are in place, and I think many people are just choosing not to take advantage of those things. The Word of God is real. And it's very powerful. A lot of things that many people get caught up in with mental illness and things of that nature can be fixed with the healing power of Jesus. I believe that. Now, it's not up to me to force belief on someone. Like, that's when you get into the dogma. But I can share my testimony, and I can share the word of Jesus with others who might be struggling, or who may not be, or who might be on a different side. Because I've been to the dark side. And I know what it's like. And I know what it's like to step into the light of Jesus. And it's much better, much, much better. And I think that we are in a spiritual battle in this society where many people have not chosen a side. They think they might be on the side of good, like you mentioned, or the side of evil, and justify the evil by saying they're doing good. And I think, yes, that it creates a lot of confusion in the world, creates a lot of gray areas and it's infiltrated in a lot of what we do on a day-to-day basis with the type of TV and film we consume, the things that we listen to in our music.
This is what we would put in front of in the 90s. I mean, not just in music, but a lot.
Yeah. I
know, it was.
But I refuse to be a victim to my and a product of my upbringing in the sense of the trauma that was experienced,
right.
And to hold on to that. And I speak to people about being able to take your life. Yeah, you got to be introspective. How do you move forward, right? How do you continue to allow for a new life to be birthed in you and not hold on to the past, right? And use all of that you felt defeated you in a way, control you today. Because does it even have any value today? Like what holds value in your life for you to move forward and not hold you back? Because, at NYU, I carried a lot of that. I felt like I was being stripped of my identity as a black man, because I went to a black college, and then here I going to this, I didn't even know what a PWI was. I mean, what is that? I'm going to NYU.
What is PW?
Predominantly white institution.
Oh, I don't even.
Right.
I don't know that word.
Right, but today, if you ask any Gen Zer or millennial, they'll tell you, oh yeah, PWI, predominantly white institution. For me, it's the place where I'm going to get trained as an actor, and not about my color. And there's a lot of emphasis on this language in today's world, especially in our career field.
Separation of other.
Yeah, most definitely. Color, everything you can think about.
Gender.
Yep, everything you can think about.
Age. Yeah.
And to me, that doesn't bring us together.
No,
right?
Not
it
at
doesn't
all.
create if we're into this. You mentioned that you have a moral and spiritual obligation in your craft and work. So how do you deal with that when you're faced with the division amongst that and the separation?
Well, what I'm telling myself right now is the more honest, open, vulnerable I could be in the way I go about life, the more that allows other people space to do the same. And that is incredibly scary for me to do, to lay it all out on the table. But by holding things within, I am innately practicing separation of self. Because if I'm asking you to be in the room with me, I need to be in the room with you. And we need to be able to have these conversations and approach each other with love and kindness and know that that's generous. You know, it's interesting that we're having this conversation because we have a shared experience with NYU. We do those evaluations or those little, you walk in and it's like a murderer's row. You're just like, what the heck are they gonna say?
Right.
And Larry Maslon said to me one time, he was like, you don't talk a lot in class. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, when you are not up there participating, when you're sitting amongst the cohort, you don't offer a lot to feedback. Why? I don't know. I don't want to like make it about me. And he was like, well, when you do offer feedback, it's really good and positive. And so by you withholding that feedback, you're not being generous. That fucked me up.
Yeah?
Fucked me up in a good way. I was like, wow,
yeah.
what a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of the time there are people in this world who put themselves out there and shine bright, but they're being generous by shining bright because they're letting us know where they stand, who they are, where they are at. And that gives us the ability to participate in that conversation. And if a person is being real, which is something that we can feel, it's an instinct that we can feel, not just as human beings on the street, but this is the way I judge acting. Are you up there telling the truth?
100%.
And do I feel like you're telling the truth? Do I feel like you're telling something at me, or do I feel like I'm sharing in this experience? If you, no matter how vulnerable it feels, you get up there and you are in the room, that is the most generous thing that you can do. And in this world of Instagram and smoke and mirrors like we're talking about, we're just telling everybody how to feel about us. And we're not opening up the perspective to have these conversations. We're just like, yeah, I don't like what he's saying, I'm gonna go over here. And this is why, like, there's so many TV shows and so many plays. It's like, I prefer that. We're creating our own sports teams and TV shows, right? I'm a Jets fan, I'm a this fan, and I'm me versus you, right? It's incredible. If you like sports, like all of a sudden you like hate the other person because they're your rival fan. It's like a weird feeling, but yet it's not real. It's a tribe mentality.
Yeah, it's tribal, definitely.
It's tribal, but the tribal mentality is going beyond just sports teams now.
Oh, yeah.
It's what news do you watch? What religion do you follow? You know, like you said, color of your skin. It's separation constantly. These buckets are being separated. And yet we're not all just looking at the common denominator. Do you breathe? I breathe.
Yeah.
Did you have a mother? Did you have a father?
Blood running through your veins.
Did you dream of a birthday present at one point in your life? Did you have that first sadness? I did. Did you? Yeah. Different perspectives, different worlds, but we all can look at each other from that perspective. We, like you said, we do not practice that at all. And it's such a simple practice, just to sit here and imagine that being over there. Sometimes with my students, because I teach up at Columbia, when I teach them loving kindness as a practice, and it's difficult to get in that because we think I need to feel it, as opposed to just wish beings well. I say, you know what? Just go outside and look up at a building. See all the windows that are there. And just imagine that inside in every one of those windows is a human being that breathes, a human being that needs to pay the bills, a human being that has a favorite food and a favorite color, a human being that wants to be hugged and loved. You're not different. And when you just step outside yourself for just a second and have that connective feeling, sense of self and separation disappears. And to me, that's flow. That's when acting is magic.
Yeah.
That's when sport is magic.
No, I'm 100%.
When sense of self evaporates and I becomes we. And it's that simple. It's as simple as just seeing that. And that's so hard to cut through the noise in this society, in this world, in our capability where everything's at our fingertips. to just distract us from that simple truth, which is that you're a being and I'm a being and we're not that different. I'll tell you a story. I don't know if you want to hear it, but it was the moment that everything shifted for me. My father died March 6, 2021. Thanks. It was really tough for me, but interestingly enough, it was like catapulted me on this journey. I am not, as we've talked about, a religious Jew, but in Judaism, which mattered a lot to my father, after somebody passes away, you say what's called Kaddish, which is a prayer every single day. Because at least my father educated me. There's some sort of like, I could be wrong, podcasts will tell me. But like, apparently after a Jewish person dies, they're in purgatory for 11 months. 11 months and a day. There's no hell in Judaism, but they're kind of like lost in space. And so their loved ones say what's called Kaddish. It's a daily prayer, morning prayer, to pray for the ones that have passed so then they can go be at peace, go to heaven. This mattered a lot to my dad. I watched my dad saying Kaddish for his mom, his dad. I watched my mom saying Kaddish for her mom and her dad every single day for 11 months and a day. Because it was COVID, I had the ability to do it because they would do it online. And so I said, I have no excuse. I don't have to go to a temple like my dad did. I could just sign on, put it in my ears, and say Kaddish for my dad. It's the last thing I could do to honor him. I don't really believe in this, but it's a tradition. It's a devotional act towards my dad. So I said Kaddish every single day. I said it on set a few times. I said it, I would like excuse myself at a dinner and I would go say it in the corner or in a bathroom. I never missed it. I had signed up for a loving kindness meditation retreat because I was in such bad grief after my dad died. It was 7 days of silence, pure silence in Spirit Rock, California. It happened to coincide with the last 7 days of my dad's Kaddish. And I was feeling complication about it because I was like, I have to speak it. But it was 7 days of silence and I was going to commit to that. So I had this weird push and pull with it. Traditionally, you have to do it this way or it's not kosher. But I also need to do this other thing. So that was running through my head as I was doing this loving kindness meditation retreat. And when I got there, I was looking around. I don't know any of these people because you're silent. But there were some observant Jews there. They had yarmulkes on or whatever. I was like, oh, there's some Jews here. You need 10 Jews to like say this thing.
Oh, really?
That's the rule is you need 10 Jews to say this thing and it's kosher. It's like the real prayer.
Yeah.
So here I am in silence being like, I see a Jew there. There's probably more Jews. Maybe I think I could get 10 so I can do this thing. All the while I would like every day when I would wake up, I would stand there looking out at the view of California and silently say to myself, Kaddish, trying to still figure out a way to get Jews to do this. But I couldn't. The way you communicate at the retreat is you write a little note, you put it on the board. So I wrote a note being like, hey, I want to say Kaddish for my dad. Can I do it? I put it on the board. No one responded to it. I was like, that sucks. It's like, why am I'm grieving. Like, why aren't they responding to me? Yeah. But here I am, like, going through all this. It's Friday morning. They make an announcement. They go, for those that celebrate Shabbat, we're going to light candles in the mess hall tonight. So please arrive early if you're an observant Jew. I was like, bingo, I'm gonna get my Jews. There's gonna be at least 10. And I'm gonna break silence and I'm gonna ask if I can say the prayer. And I get there. I'd already been silent for about 5 days now, and there's at least 30 people. I was like, oh, this is great. But I couldn't say it. I couldn't break silence because in that moment, what came to mind was if I break silence, I'm making this moment about me. Although everyone would do it, I am breaking silence and changing 30 people who I don't know's experience for my needs. And I broke into tears and didn't know what to do. And I just walked out. I was like uncontrollably crying.
Silently.
Well, I was making noise, but I wasn't talking. But I left the room because I was like, this isn't about me. I'm not going to make it about me. Sometimes, in grad school, you see people cry and they they want to be seen. I was like, did not want to be seen. And out of nowhere, this girl who I don't know, because we don't know each other, She comes busting out the door, more hysterical than me, crying. And then she sees me, we see each other, but then she goes like farther away and she's bawling. And I'm crying and I see her crying. And in that moment, I was like, I had such compassion for her. Because I didn't know her story. And I felt so much pain and can see my pain in her pain and her pain in my pain. And I was like, that's what this is about. That's what we're not seeing in life. We're not seeing that my suffering, this intense feeling that I feel of love, kindness, happiness, sadness, is the same suffering that you feel about your own experience. And that if we just know that we feel these hard things and that you feel them too, and it's like if I feel it and it hurts so much, it must hurt that much, if not worse, for you. And like an immediate sense of like real compassion, genuine, endless amount of compassion spread to that lady who I don't know. And I was like, that is something that I am going to commit the rest of my life to practicing, to attempting to remind myself and check myself. Am I making this about me or am I making it about we? And that is not easy to do, especially in this career, because it's all about your name, your resume, your job, your publicist, your TV show. But there needs to be that humility, that understanding that like, if I'm awarded that ability to be out there and have a public platform, then I need to be in that platform for a purpose. And I have to commit to that. Take that vow publicly in my heart. And that gives me actual more confidence than any fake confidence I ever had coming out of NYU or coming out of anything. There was this true, genuine, I can stand on set and fail. I can stand in this interview and suck. I can teach my students and do my best, because all I'm doing is my best take at this life. And I'm willing to take the heat, and I'm praise and blame are coming at you no matter what.
Yeah.
It's how your involvement with it is what creates that sense of purpose, that sense of ease. It gets me up in the morning as a father, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we not just separate ourselves from each other, but we also separate our aspects in our life from each other. Like, I'm an actor over here, I'm a father over here, I'm an educator over here. No, it's all the same. That bucket feeds that bucket, it's an infinity symbol. And it's individualized. So when somebody says to me, or they say to my students and they come to me for advice, don't do that because this is gonna happen. Very dogmatic, right? Don't do that, do this. I say, how do you know? Do both. If you feel a sense of purpose, because it's never happened yet. That's why they're telling you you can't, because no one's ever done it. So go do it. If you feel like you can, go. It's generous to try. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Getting a little technical here. You mentioned that about 51 to 75% of your earnings come from acting.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's changing.
Changing how? Which way is it going? Higher, lower, and why?
It's because I'm devoted and committed to building my private business of coaching, training, teaching.
So you have to take a hit, a little loss?
It's not really a loss, it's just
financial loss, I mean.
It's a loss of time.
Time?
Yeah, I'm juggling all of it, but like I said, it all feeds each other's boxes. So like 1 year it's this, 1 year it's that.
Yeah.
And I go basically where I feel like is going to benefit each box, basically.
Okay.
And we can't ever manipulate that. But people do see your artistry if a person is in the room participating with you, because then you're offering a piece of inspiration as a non-conditional gift, unconditional gift. You're saying, hey, this is my take.
Yeah.
I don't need you to do anything with it. It's just like, here it is. Here's my proposal. And that's it. Then you can sleep well at night. You're like, I proposed that thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
That's training, right? That's what we train.
Yeah, that's like a lot of the Jim Calder. Love it.
That's it, yeah. He was one of the most influential people in my life, for sure.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Is still, I mean, is still.
Yeah. Do you go back and sit in his classes?
No, I mean, sometimes in the alumni weekend I do his thing, but I haven't had the opportunity to sit in. But that would be fun when like people you know from television or movies come in and sit in and jump in.
Yeah.
I remember Sterling K. Brown came in and did the love bucket
That thing.
with us.
Crazy thing.
I was like, wow, I love that about NYU.
Yeah,
Like, people that inspire you come in and just
do.
get dirty with you.
Right.
It's cool.
It all changed after COVID.
Yeah.
You know, but it's still, I'm still itching to get back in there too.
Oh, yeah. It's play. That's
It
what we do it
is.
for.
You know? And I will say this, the longer you're away from it, the more you don't miss it. But once you're back in it, you go, wait, this is the thing that excited me and got me into this. This is what I was invested in. Yes, I want to do more of this.
Right.
Right?
Well, 100%.
You said that you didn't make, you feel like you've made it? You said no.
Made it. No, because I don't know what, like it's a yes and no, like, because one of the practices that I do every day is I contemplate impermanence, which is the fact that everything changes and that we're not guaranteed anything. So I have arrived, and I also, if I'm awarded another breath, no. So that was a hard question for me to answer, because at one point, maybe I would have said no or yes, because I would have had an expectation for myself. But I don't. I am on the path of whatever it is that I'm attempting to express, and I'm just gonna keep doing that. So I don't know if you can, or if I could confidently say yes or no. I can say yes right now. Yes, I've made it. I made it here. Thank God I was able to.
To this room.
Yeah, to this room,
Yeah.
to this interview, to this moment. I made it here. So it's really just more of a, and I know that's might be a cop-out, but it's the way I look at things. I try and change the way that I phrase things, you know, from like, I have to I get to, or things that are result-oriented. I try and shift the vocabulary to something that's a little bit more aspirational as opposed to expectational.
I guess what's being asked in that question too is, do you have many of the things that you dreamt of having yesterday, years ago? You wanted to be married with kids and have a career in acting, which you do have. Is that something that happened by chance, or was it something that you actually sought?
I think if I start to clear the cobwebs, the answer is yes, I have made it. Because the cobwebs equal my career, equal the money I have in my bank account. The life of showing up every single day to myself, to others, to at least to failing at doing that and then getting back up and trying again, that's occurring. So that you know, I saw a comedian say, happiness is right now without expectations. Mm-hmm. So in that context, yeah, I'm happy when I clear the expectations, which are tough to do.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one last thing. You said advice was...
What's my advice?
It was...
I gave a lot of unsolicited
You said
advice
don't hide.
Don't hide. Yeah, I think we talked a lot about that today. Yeah. You know, the joke, Andrew Hovelson, who was a classmate of mine, he used to sing a song to me back in grad school, like as a teasing thing. He used to say, y'all can't find me because I'm really hidden. And he used to say that about me. Mm-hmm. And I never really knew what he meant, but now I do. It's what Larry Maslin was saying to me as well, is that I don't have enough confidence to be that I think I'm enough. And so I put on something. But then when I let that go, when I at least attempt to let that go, I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So that's what I mean by don't hide. Yeah. It's an aspiration.
Yeah, no, good. That's great, man. Thank you.
This is good, bro. Yeah.
That's a wrap for this session in the waiting room. If this resonated with you, share it with another artist on the grind. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at In the Waiting Room Pod for more content and updates. If you're a working actor, head to our bio to fill out our survey. It helps us bring more voices into this community. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up. The waiting isn't wasted. See you next time. Peace.